Welcome back to BWO Daily, your source for news in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling from your boys at Busted Wide Open. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangers. And if you watched the Payback pay-per-view last night from WWE, you saw that some big changes are afoot. There was a major heel turn return from Roman Reigns. He returned last week at SummerSlam and looked a little bit more vicious, and he showed up on SmackDown hanging out with Paul Heyman. And then on Payback last night, he came out and was a dick, and he won the Universal Championship off of The Fiend and Braun Strowman after lots of chair shots and spears and whatnot. But the thing about this, Nick, that we have to look at is he came out with Paul Heyman, and he seems to be aligning himself with Paul Heyman. Well, who else do we know that aligns himself with Paul Heyman these days?
CM Punk.
No, these days.
Brock Lesnar.
Correct. Yes, not the Big Show, not CM Punk, not
Lots
briefly
of
Cesaro.
bikini-clad women in Vegas.
No. Brock Lesnar, you hit it on the head, aligns himself with Paul Heyman. Apparently, Brock was approached about showing up for SummerSlam this year. In what capacity, we don't know. But according to Tom Colohue of Sportskeeda, he said no. And it's noteworthy today that Brock's WWEshop.com page and all his merch has been taken down. Now, this could be a negotiation tactic on the part of WWE, because if his merch isn't up there, it's not being sold, and they don't have to pay him the merch money from stuff that's not being sold. So it could be a way to squeeze him in the wallet and make him come back to the negotiating table, or it could be something larger. The bottom line is we don't know yet. All we know is that the page is gone, and WWE hasn't said anything about it yet. And beyond that, your guess is as good as mine, Nick. It's just worth noting that he didn't want to come to SummerSlam, and so WWE took down his page. So very interesting.
Petty or smart business idea? You decide. I'm not sure.
I mean, it could be both. But at the end of the day, I would say it's probably smarter than not, because we know Brock is very money motivated, much like a large pit bull with a piece of steak.
Right.
So it's... in my personal opinion, if I was to throw some speculation in here, I would say it's probably a negotiation tactic, just to kind of starve him of that income for right now, just to make him possibly hungrier to come back and get that extra source of income in. I don't think he's suffering for money at all. No. I'm just saying that it's definitely a revenue stream that he might want to have turned back on at some point. So
I agree, and I think I still have the feeling, based on just the years that we've been watching this Roman Reigns push, I still don't feel like he has slain that dragon to an end point yet. Meaning that I still don't believe that Roman Reigns has gotten over to the point that he can look beyond Brock Lesnar. I still feel like there's a Brock Lesnar haunting Roman Reigns, and I'm wondering if there's something here where if he does come back, do we get another Roman Brock program that does eventually let that settle? Or
I would argue that's irrelevant right now. Reigns, if he has turned full heel, I think him and Brock would be irrelevant at this point. And Drew slayed Brock at WrestleMania, which was the last time we saw him. So I think in some ways Drew picked up the mantle that Roman Reigns put down of not being able to take down Brock. Seth tried it, but then his face turns kind of went squirrely for multiple reasons, which we don't need to get into here. But the bottom line is I think that Brock arc has ended, and they could start something new with the Beast, but we'll see if they want to, and we'll see if Brock wants to. That's also a big question.
Good point.
And it also could be an issue of travel as well. Brock does live, I believe, across the Canadian border, so it could be a travel issue as well at this point if Brock could actually get back into the country. We've had other Canadians be able to, and with Brock, I imagine it's just a matter of will.
Right.
But that could also be a factor. Throwing that out there. Someone else who does want to come back to WWE, however, is Wade Barrett. He showed up last week on NXT as an announcer, which is a role that he's had recently for Sky Sports, for NWA most recently. But apparently, last week was a bit of a feeling out process. He's back this week on NXT for their huge show on Tuesday night, and he may be with NXT going forward. Apparently, all the sides involved were very happy last week, and now they're looking for a place to put him. He's going to be coming back in an announcer role, according to all reports, and not an in-ring talent. But as an announcer, he could slot in a lot of places. Right now, he's being reported for NXT UK being the most likely place for him to land. But there could be other opportunities as well. So Wade Barrett may be on a track back to WWE behind the desk. I guess the only question that leaves is, what's going to happen for NWA. They've gone through 2 announcers now.
Yeah.
You had Jim Cornette go out after saying something controversial on air and have to resign, and then now you've got Wade Barrett, who's out during the pandemic, and NWA has been bleeding talent. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how they resurface once they do start deciding to tape again.
Not sure. I like the idea of him going to NXT UK. I also like the idea of him bringing some fresh blood to NXT. I'm not sure I love the pairing of him with Vic Joseph. That was the thing that felt a little bit off. Vic is a lot more animated and high pitched and more like a Morrow. But I could certainly see Wade slotting in for a Nigel. I could certainly see Wade going over and doing some stuff with Vic in NXT UK. I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
Wade's certainly more of a color guy, and Morrow, while he is a play-by-play, I think he's way more animated than Vic Joseph, who I find on the dry side. He's fine, but he's a play-by-play. That's what he's supposed to be. Yeah. But I definitely prefer me some Morrow. That's just me.
Oh, 100%.
But I could see Wade going anywhere that they need a good, strong color commentator, and usually that has been Nigel over in the UK. I don't know what would happen to Nigel in that scenario. So it remains to be seen where Wade lands. But, interesting that he wants to come back, at least in that form. So, but I just wonder who the NWA is going to get now.
No
Poor
idea.
guys. Finally, Drew McIntyre is out with a kayfabe hairline fracture in his jaw thanks to being kicked in the head 3 times by Randy Orton on last week's Raw. But that didn't keep him from talking smack to somebody else who might be able to cave his head in. You might remember Tyson Fury as being the lineal heavyweight boxing champion of the world last year when he had a match at Crown Jewel against Braun Strowman, which he won. Tyson Fury won, I might add, by countout. But in a most exciting turn of events.
Riveting.
But Tyson Fury wasn't done with the WWE. We knew that then. He was very high on his time working with them, and he said he wanted to come back. Well, apparently he's figured out his next target. Because in a video on Twitter, he said, and I quote, "Been sitting on the train after a long and busy weekend, and I'm thinking about people I want to punch in the face. And the first one that springs to mind is a big fella called Drew McIntyre." Now, Drew, you've been having quite a bit to say about me lately, which, by the way, I don't know if Drew really has. I think he said a couple of sideways words about nothing big. I don't know. They've been working this up for a little bit, I guess. "I loved to punch your face in, honestly. Bong, right in the lips. So grow a pair, step up to the plate, and come fight the master, me." So this is an official challenge video to Drew McIntyre, the WWE Heavyweight Champion of the world. "I already knocked your pal out, Braun Strowman. I'll do the same to you. Bring it." It's Tyson Fury laying down a gauntlet.
Well, shit.
To Drew McIntyre.
Come and get it, Tyson Fury.
Drew has responded. Drew said this weekend, he said, "I'm not one of the normal bums you pick to fight. I'm not some punching bag getting paid to turn up and lose." Nice timing, by the way. Even with a fractured jaw, I'm pretty confident I could do 12 rounds with your pillow fists. Nice try, King. You're WWE champion. This is an interesting development because Drew seems to have quite a bit on his plate already.
Right.
And Tyson Fury with Braun Strowman was more of a special attraction kind of event than something that we actually took terribly seriously. This is the WWE Heavyweight Champion. So the question is how that would work with a Tyson Fury, where you can't really have Tyson come in and lose, and you can't have Drew, your WWE Champion, lose. So if they do want to go this direction and have some sort of match, it would have to be something else like the Braun Strowman one with a count out or a DQ or some sort of fudgy finish to protect both guys. So I'm not really sure. Obviously, the upside here is drawing the money from the casual crowd and from the people who don't normally watch wrestling but watch boxing.
Sure.
But beyond that, this is an interesting development. I'm not quite sure what to make of this, and I'm not really sure I want Tyson Fury back in the old wrestling business.
Me either.
But it's there. Looks like it's happening. And it's begun to build so far. So keep your eyes open for a possible Drew versus Tyson Fury match at some point in the future. Maybe if things clear up and we end up going back to Crown Jewel and we need another throwaway house show match, they could put that together somehow.
If Drew is still champion and has a match against Tyson Fury, I will be very surprised. I could totally see it if he were to drop the championship to a Randy Orton some point this year, later down the line, and then we have it at a Crown Jewel event.
It would be a nice way to, getting Randy the title would be a nice way to pay him back for his the favors that he did on Payback when he put over Keith Lee, which apparently, according to Talk Sport, there was a one member of the WWE staff who told them that yes, the plan is to push Keith Lee to the moon, as if that wasn't apparent by having him pin Randy Orton clean in about 5 minutes. But
not to mention the last 30 to 60 days of his run on NXT. I mean, like, duh.
Eliminated Seth Rollins in the Survivor Series and toe-to-toe Roman Reigns at the time, too. So, yeah, no, they've got plans for that boy.
Yeah.
They have plans for Keith Lee. He is going all the way to the moon and beyond with apologies to Cameron Grimes. Keith Lee is as Booker T said on the pre-show of Payback, he is a full-grown-ass man, and he is coming for everything in WWE. And Nick, you and I here on the show could not be happier about that as gigantic fans of Keith Lee. I just love hearing it confirmed. Oh, yeah, we are pushing Keith Lee to the moon.
That makes me even happier.
Oh, I love it.
Woo,
I love it.
Tingly chilies. Woo.
Happy birthday. We missed it on Saturday because we didn't have a news show, but happy birthday to Stan Hansen. He turned 71 years old and still would not want to be anywhere near him when he's throwing haymakers.
Nope.
Today, we've got to say happy birthday to the current Intercontinental Champion over in WWE. That would be Jeff Hardy. He turned 43 today. Mickie James is 41. And Ember Moon, who we hope will be back on TV at some point, we hope her career's not over. It was last thing we heard was reported career was over. But hopefully she'll be back. Ember Moon turned 32. So happy birthday to all of them, Nick. And that is the news.
Well, thank you, Sir Ian Dangerous. Happy birthday to all of those folks. And yes, I would not want to take a Stan Hansen haymaker myself either. No. Even at 71. Make sure you get into our Discord community, and all of our social media is down in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here by pounding that big red button and set your notifications to all so you get notified every day when we put up an episode of BWO Daily. And we'll be back this weekend and all throughout the week over on Twitch at twitch.tv/bustedwideopen. Don't forget, All Out is this weekend. We've got our third weekend in a row with a major pay-per-view. Strap in, folks. It's going to be a fun fall as we continue to go through all of these pay-per-views all throughout the rest of 2020. But we want you in there in the Discord and right here on YouTube and in our Twitch channel with us. My name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
And we will see you guys next time.